That's like a last minute thing because you know how Sextasy sometimes they do like on Thursdays and Sundays just random, like all locals and stuff.
Locals, like they have local talent come on?
Yeah. Well, they don't book like a headliner per se.
Yeah.
They just have like a bunch of like their favorites or even some artists that aren't really known to like the underground. They'll bring them out on those days.
Oh, that's cool for them. Kind of like a discovery type of setup.
Yeah. So every now and then they're like, hey, you know what? I thought it was for Saturday. So I agreed to the gig. And then I looked again and I'm like, oh, fuck, it's for Sunday. Sorry too late. They were like, you're locked in already. I'm like, okay.
Well, how long have you been a resident with Sextasy?
So it's now a year. I actually made a year this month. Yeah, in November.
Oh, congrats on that.
Thank you.
Yeah. What was it more of just like they kind of found you?
Yeah, so I played with them, I want to say maybe in October last year, and it was a collab. They had just started throwing parties. It was a collab with Southern Prison Control Room.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I used to play a lot more hard techno at the time. And I think around that time, they didn't really know what genre really they kind of wanted to promote. They were kind of still doing like hypnotic and hard techno kind of, yeah.
They're more or less just trying to figure out their sound.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So Brian was like, hey, dude, like, we loved your set, He booked me for a couple more shows. And then he was like, do you just want to be a resident? I'm like, okay.
All right, cool.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm already recording and everything, so we just started. But yeah, let's go ahead and I like to have the guests just kind of introduce themselves so anyone who doesn't know you can at least know who you are. So go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah. Hi, guys. My name is Gigi. I am a techno DJ, obviously. I play a little bit of, I played a lot of hard techno, currently transitioning a little bit more to like the hypnotic sounds, like hypnotic techno. And I'm a resident for Sextasy. I've played for a couple other big local promoters. And
all right. And then you have another alias too.
I do. So in regards to that alias, so it was when I myself was still kind of trying to find my sound,
Yeah.
And then I finally came to the conclusion, like halfway through this year, I was like, you know what, like, I love hard techno, don't get me wrong. Like, I'll still listen to it, and I'll still play it. But it doesn't necessarily, like, speak to me the way the hypnotic techno does.
Okay. Let's just have the mic a little bit closer to you.
Sure.
Yeah. There you go.
Thank you.
Yeah. So Groove Dealer.
Yes.
That was your hard techno alias?
No. So Groove Dealer was the hypnotic techno alias.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And then you stepped away from which one again? Sorry.
So I'm as Gigi. Yeah. Gigi was supposed to be hard techno, but I'm making the transition to hypnotic.
Got you.
Yeah. So I'm not necessarily discarding Groove Dealer entirely. I think I might want to do something with that in the future. Like maybe
put
out an EP and title it that,
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we'll definitely touch up on that later in the podcast. But at least right now, so let's more or less kind of maybe... your background, where you from? Where did you start?
So I'm a Valley girl. I grew up in the Valley, but I was born in Colombia. Came here when I was 5.
Do you remember much of that?
I do have a lot of memories of like when I was little, like with my mom and my dad.
Okay.
Yeah, but nothing. I mean, I really wasn't there that long. Basically, my entire childhood was here. So the majority of my memories obviously are here.
So you don't have much, do you go back and forth at all? Or?
I don't know because I just got my green card in 2018.
Okay.
And at the time I was still in college. So I had bought a flight back to Colombia in 2020 because that's when I graduated from my university. And I couldn't go because of COVID.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I asked because I have a lot of friends that, DJ in Costa Rica, and they all mentioned, hey, you should check out Colombia. Apparently the scene out there.
It's a hot spot right now. Yeah, dude, for hard techno and for hypnotic.
Yeah,
it's so cool.
I was interested to see if you had any connection, but no worries. Valley Girl. And then when did you start just getting exposed to the whole EDM world?
Oh, man, that was a while ago. So I think to the music itself, probably when I was like 15 years old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. When I was like 15, 16, way back then, parties used to be like all ages. Um,
I did not know it was most parties were all ages. Okay.
yeah,
Even the underground ones.
yeah, even EDC at some point was all ages.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so there was like smaller underground parties, back then, and like I was heavy into like trance and like Old Above and Beyond and
Yeah.
Tiesto, and like Dead Mouse. So I've been into the music for quite some time. Yeah,
So you were at 15, you were going to like all these events.
correct.
And was it a friend? He's like, hey, you want to come check this out? And then,
Yeah. You know what? To be honest, I don't quite remember how it happened, but I know that because I was so heavy into the music, they used to pass out flyers. So, like, you know what I mean? So, one of these days, I think I might have just picked up a flyer and told my best friend, like, hey, why don't we just go to this, and tell our parents we're going to do something else.
and then, so you were here when EDC was
In LA.
in LA, right?
Yeah, I did that. I think 2010 was the last year that it was here. I went to that. That was awesome. And then 2011 was when they moved it to Las Vegas.
Okay. And then, out of curiosity, like, were you ever exposed? Like, did you have any musical background? Or...
No, not musical background. Like I don't have any family members that are like singers or anything like that. But my mom she loves to dance salsa.
Okay.
She's a salsa dancer, yeah. So she taught me how to dance salsa, and music has always been a very heavy part of like our culture and just like it's everything we do with music.
Okay. And then obviously, so I'm assuming raving. You said you did a trance, and I'm assuming when did house and techno start?
Correct. Yeah, it was like trance. Yeah, progressive. The Dead Mouse era. Yeah.
Yeah. So pretty much you're raving. And when did you first get behind a deck?
That actually was not that long ago.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was in like 2021 that I started.
Oh, that's not long ago.
No, like officially in 2021. I did have a friend who tried to teach me way before that, maybe like 5 years earlier than that. But I think at the time I was so young and I didn't really know like where I wanted to go with it because I had so many other things going on in my life that I kind of just, tried it like maybe 1 or 2 lessons and I was like, okay, I can't do it.
And we're talking about vinyls, right?
No, like
Or
CDJs. Yeah, like
Okay.
the Nexus, I think the Nexus ones.
I'm not even familiar with that.
Yeah, okay.
If it doesn't have a 2, I don't.
Yeah. No worries.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm assuming it was just like for fun to teach it.
Yeah, because she was a DJ, so she was like, oh, you have good taste. You could totally do it. And then, I don't know. I think we must have been drunk too when we tried it. So, I didn't really like
It wasn't something you considered strongly. It was like.
Right. It was just like to
fun.
pass time and like
Yeah.
have fun. Yeah.
So then when did it get more serious?
So that was in 2021. So I've always been like most of my friends have always been, into music, either musicians or, DJs themselves, or they're in the same scene and stuff like that. So I think when the whole COVID thing happened was when hard techno really started to kind of grow, because like most of the other parties, they were kind of shut down because of the COVID and stuff, So some of my friends, they had started a hard techno collective and they were throwing like hard techno parties at the time.
What's a collective?
Technoids.
Okay.
Yeah. So I have my friend Jack, actually, he was like one of the first few people that actually took me to a studio and, showed me like, okay, this button does this and this button does that. And this is how you move the jog wheel. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he was in that collective and then I kind of ended up meeting like everybody else. So we used to go to Pirate. I don't know if you're familiar with Pirate. Pirates.
Oh, yeah, the suit where you rent out. I always see their ads.
So it used to be 24 hours before, so we would used to book it out for like 2 days straight.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, it was crazy. Yeah. So that's mostly how I learned. We would all book a session and little by little, I started kind of understanding it more. And then I bought myself a DDJ. And that's more when I started doing it on my own and figuring out like my technique and stuff like that.
Okay, so all in all, you've been DJing mostly techno.
Correct.
Yeah, you haven't really tried house.
No, you know what? I love house.
Yeah.
There's a time and place for house. But it's not like, not my cup of tea. Not that I don't like it, but it's not my preference.
That's fair. I mean, wait, how long have you been aside from the DJing, like just actively going to underground raves?
It's been a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So local, like the most well-known, like work, for example, 6
Yeah.
a.m. So I think my first 6 a.m. party was in, I want to say 2013, 2014.
Okay.
Yeah.
So-
So then from there it was, primarily their parties. There was Into the Woods. There was If You Know parties back then, which were more housey, but still a little bit more like
was always the harder stuff.
not the harder stuff with the techno.
The techno.
Yeah,
Okay. So by that point, were you like actively like working with any of those collectives, or
No.
they just knew you through?
Yeah, just from partying, just, after they see your face all the time,
Yeah.
almost every weekend, like, hey, it's you again.
Every weekend.
Yeah,
huh?
not every weekend, but at least twice a month or something
At
like
least,
that.
yeah.
Yeah. So you kind of start to get to know people and get to know who are the regulars and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And you just make friends.
And then that's when they kind of quote unquote adopted you, and then started showing you the way.
Yeah, they're like, you've been in this for too long. Why haven't you DJ'd yet? And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, not really tried it.
Okay, so you started more or less learning from them.
Correct. Yeah.
And then did you basically become a resident with them? And then
No, I didn't. So the person who taught me he's been like a close friend of mine for years.
Yes.
One of the first few people that I met when I started going to like the 6 a.m. parties and stuff. So he kind of just took it upon himself, to just be like, hey, like, why don't you come here? Like, you always watch me. Let me just show you how to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was more also for fun.
okay.
Yeah, but I think because I had already made a lot of connections with people who were themselves promoters and or knew a promoter and or through some sort of party, that when they saw that I started DJing, they were like, oh, hey, well, why don't you play my party?
Oh, okay. So you already had your reputation
Yeah.
prior to even touching decks, which kind of
Right.
helped.
Yeah.
And then is there do you remember your first time in front of a crowd?
I do, actually.
I always ask that because everyone always has a very similar answer to it.
Yeah.
I'm curious to know yours.
I do. So I don't know if you've heard of Polar Nights.
I don't think so, no.
Okay, so I think they still throw parties. I'm not sure, but the owner is an old friend of mine. Known him for years. And when he found out that I had started DJing, he was like, hey, I'm throwing a house and techno show and like some loft somewhere in like LA or something.
Okay.
Yeah, and he was like, do you want to spin? And I was like, oh shoot, like, am I ready for this? I don't even know.
Okay.
Yeah, and I remember I invited a couple of friends, like some close friends of mine came. It was a smaller party, so the crowd wasn't like insane, but still, you're in front of strangers.
No, external.
Yeah, and I'm like, shoot, I don't know if I could do this. So I did it. It wasn't, obviously it wasn't the greatest set looking back. There was a lot of things that I could have done better, but I didn't know any better at the time,
Well, by that point, you were what? How long into?
I just started.
Yeah, you
few months.
barely.
Yeah.
So the fact that you already got a show.
Yeah, I was like,
That early.
why not?
Yeah, and then afterwards, you did this show. Was it just like an addiction? You just I want to.
Yeah, so I loved it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I loved it. I loved the energy. Just being able to like play like things for people and just seeing how happy they are. I think for me it's the happiness and just seeing how other people kind of get like entranced by music the way that it makes me feel. It's awesome. I love it.
To share that experience with
Correct.
them.
Yeah.
All right. So now, like the ball's rolling, it's becoming, I would say, what do you consider now? Like you saw it as like this is something serious that I can take somewhere.
Yeah. So I didn't in the beginning. I don't think. I don't know. Maybe I just didn't quite believe in myself that much at that time. I actually did a little bit of photography too. So I was kind of stuck in between like, oh shoot, like, do I want to shoot the party or do I want to like play the party,
That's fair.
And both are very time consuming because, for photography, you got to edit the pictures, you got to, do all the things. And then for DJing, it's preparing your set, it's practicing your set. And I've always worked a full-time job, so my free time is very limited,
Yeah. And I think that's one thing that especially when I feel like there's been a big wave of newcomers into the scene who, and at least looking on social media, people kind of have this fantasy
Yeah.
of what this world's like.
Right.
And no one really knows the struggle.
Correct. Until you actually go through it.
Yeah. And I think that's one thing, like, yeah, we like to look at the big names. We like to idolize them. And because they're traveling the world, they're making a living. But
Right.
to get to that point is really hard. So most of us, yeah, we do have to have the 9 to 5.
Exactly.
Yeah. And at least I would say, like, yeah, you do work, full-time job and a career that you're building towards.
Right.
Do you ever see the music career and then, your work as like getting to a point where you might have to make a big decision?
Yeah. So I've thought about that a lot actually, because I think ultimately music really always has been my passion. So has medicine. But the way that I see it, I feel like medicine, a career in medicine is always going to be there.
Fair.
Whereas, if something happens with the music and I actually go further, like that's sort of more of like a once in a lifetime opportunity. You know what I mean? If for whatever reason it doesn't work out, then hey, like I
something to
did
fall
it.
back onto.
Yeah, I tried it, had fun, still have medicine.
No, that's actually a great way of thinking about it. It's almost like a safety net.
Correct.
Yeah. So, I mean, what would that vision be? Do you want to be more of like traveling and doing other venues, or do you want to kind of keep building your name here and then building something in LA?
So I feel like I don't think I've built something big in LA already. I feel like I've definitely put my foot in the door, and where I need to, I think right now I would like to start playing outside of California.
Okay.
I've done Northern California, I've done a little bit here. But I definitely would like to tour. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
Mostly right now though, because I know that in order to be able to get to that point, I kind of, not that I'm pressured to put out my own music, but I would like to put out my own music and put out something that is me, that represents me.
Definitely.
To show to the people that I'm not just, someone that just gets behind the deck. And
Well, actually, that's something that I think would be great to talk about because I hear it all the time. I'm sure you've heard it just hearing right now that this day and age, like to become that next level DJ, you do have to produce your own music.
right.
So are you producing your own music?
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet. I'm still learning. I'm still very new to the, the DAW and everything.
Which dog?
Ableton.
Nice. I'm a little biased, but nice.
Yeah. Still very, very new. I think that right now is my biggest obstacle. Because I kind of hear what I want to make in my head. Like I have the theme.
It's the most frustrating thing.
Yeah.
Trying to get it.
But it's like, shoot, how do I translate what I have in here onto this software,
How long at least have you been producing so far?
Oh, not that long. I want to say maybe like where I've actually like sat down and tried stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe like 6 months.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
it has not been long at all.
Yeah. At least how has that experience been so far?
It's been awesome. And I've had, very great tutors. Like he's helped me a lot. For example, I had a friend who was helping me earlier. Was it this year? Oh no, sometime last year. We kind of dabbled into it a little bit, and he kind of taught me like the arrangement and where I could find certain things. That was pretty cool. I've made like snippets of like a track, maybe like not even a minute. Wait,
Okay.
but
Yeah, it's something.
just
Everyone
get an
starts
idea.
somewhere,
Yeah.
Yeah, no, trust me. I remember when I started making it. I actually pulled up a lot of my old tracks I made when first year I started. I was like, all right, and you'll be the same way. Watch when you hit 5 years and you pull up your very first track. You'll be like, you know what? I actually had something going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you just got to be patient with it.
Right.
I think the most crucial part is that just, especially starting, don't have any expectations.
Yeah.
Like you said, you have that vision and you try and make it, but you just haven't built the muscle yet to really like translate.
Right. Yeah.
So my biggest, because I've been producing for about 5 years now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So my biggest advice to give someone starting off is just have fun.
Yeah.
I always say, fuck around and find out.
That's right.
the best thing you can do. But like, I'm assuming you're obviously producing the more hard techno stuff.
No, actually,
Oh.
I have not made any hard techno.
Okay.
I still haven't figured out how to make that hard techno kick. And that's
The kick is going to be the envy of your existence when it comes to techno.
yeah. Most of everything that I made is hypnotic.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's just, because a lot of the listeners I might have might not be exposed to the difference between hard and hypnotic. Can you just give us a little bit of a explanation of what it is? Because I feel like this day and age, people are getting into techno without fully understanding the subgenres.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think hypnotic techno, it's definitely a little bit more entrancing, slower BPMs. There's like claps, that the sounds are, dang, I don't know how to explain it.
This is your producer
I'm like, I
getting
can
tested.
show you.
Yeah. Yeah. When you say lower BPM, are we talking about like 130?
Yeah. So, well, my preference for me, like when I play, I try to keep it between 138 and 143.
Okay.
That's my sweet spot.
Yeah.
But I know a lot of people that, like to stay between 130 and 138. They don't go above. Old hypnotic techno, that's always where it kind of sat, was in the 130s, never went above 138 because that was, 143 is the new 138 now.
Oh, I see.
Things have sped up a lot
Yeah.
throughout the years, but the elements are still there.
And then hypnotic, it's a lot of like looping sounds.
Yes.
Is it more on the percussion or more on just the sound?
There is some percussion in some of the tracks, but I think it's more of like spacey sounds. Like
Or ambient,
it just like sounds like
Just
that.
repeating and evolving as it goes through. And then the harder stuff is just really about the kick.
It's mostly the kick. It's
And
like
the
how
drive.
fat is your kick, No, I swear to God,
Yeah.
it is.
So, I mean, because at least you've pretty much performed in both of them.
Yeah.
I think because like I've tried to get into the hard stuff. For me, it's like, I think for me, I like to have variation breakdowns. I like to have melodic components. The hard techno, you don't really have a lot of the space for that, right?
Right. So there's not a lot of room because everything's so sped up.
Yeah. So how do you keep things interesting? How do you keep things unique to you? How do you stand out from other hard techno artists?
So that was the part that I was struggling with.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it's like we're all playing the same tracks, we're all playing the same gigs. Like that's when
Yeah.
I started thinking to myself, like, okay, like what am I gonna do as an artist that's gonna make me stand out from friends like Favina or like Emiliana? Like we all like the same hard industrial tracks, artists, labels. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's where I found it hard because I was like, I can't force myself to try to find that niche for something that I don't really feel as passionate about
Yeah.
as I do with like the hypnotic. If you ask me the same question with hypnotic techno, easy. I like to throw in a lot of broken beat, I like to throw it.
okay.
Yeah. So it's because it was easier for me to answer that question. That's why I made the change. I was like, okay,
see.
you know what I mean? Like, why am I struggled so much to put a set together, and with hypnotic, it's so much easier for me. I'm just like,
Yeah.
oh, that's good. Oh, yeah, I could put this here,
Yeah.
But with hard techno, there's not that much room.
It's because hard techno, it's stripped down a lot of the elements. A lot of what makes a track its unique.
Right.
So it's almost like, a painter with a paintbrush. Hypnotic, you have a variation of colors you can pick from.
Exactly. Yeah, I can throw in, some more wavy stuff, like with a little bit more ambiance into it, like there's just so many more options. But like I'm not hating them. I love the hard techno.
Yeah.
My hard techno bodies are always killing it. But I don't know, maybe I'm just not the hard techno body, and that's okay.
No, it's fair, but I think it honestly does come down like the fact that you are starting to produce. So you're starting to pay more attention to these elements.
Yeah, and I can hear the sounds, and and like Mark has taught me a lot of like using corpus and things like that, and he's like, do you hear the difference now? And sometimes I don't really hear it because I don't have as good as an ear as he does, yet. But sometimes I can tell the difference, and I'm like, oh wow, that's cool. Like that's how they made that. That's awesome,
Yeah, I think definitely once you start hitting your 2 and 3 year mark, you're not gonna listen to music the same way.
Definitely.
You're
Yeah.
always going to be dissecting it,
Yeah. Yeah.
breaking it down to its elements.
Right.
So what would you say, like some artists that some people can follow that kind of, I would say, represent close to what you're trying to accomplish in terms of sound? Do you have any artists that kind of you use as inspiration?
Yeah, so right now I'm really heavy on Psych and Orb.
Okay.
They've kind of, been putting out music for a while. I have always been a fan of Un.
Okay.
Anything Un, love it.
I don't know. I gotta check
Yeah,
those out. Yeah.
yeah, and he does a lot of like the broken beat stuff that I love with like a heavier kick now. He didn't used to do it before, but now his more recent releases
Yeah.
have that.
Love it.
Solid. Yeah, definitely recommend.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about like what you've done so far. You have your residency with Sextasy, right? Let's just go ahead and talk about it again about how you got into that. And I think we talked about it in the beginning.
Yeah.
Let's just reiterate. How did you get a residency there?
So I played a show for them when they did a collab with Control Room, kind of when they were first starting out. Yeah. And then after playing, I think I played maybe like 1 or 2 more shows for them after that. And I was always in touch with Brian, the owner of Sextasy. So we were always like in touch and just talking about things and like music and stuff. And he was like, dude, like, why don't you just become one of our residents? And I was like, okay.
Was this when Sextasy was more or less getting started? Because I know they kind of popped up after COVID.
Yes. So they're fairly new. I don't know how long they've been hosting shows.
Yeah, but they actually blew up pretty big in this year.
Yeah, within this year, actually. They've had like their biggest bookings, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the names definitely started to become more of a household, because it was always 6 a.m.
Right.
Now you have 6 a.m., you have Lick and Dip, you have
Right.
Sextasy.
Yeah.
Is most of your work with Sextasy, or have you done stuff with 6 a.m.?
I have done stuff with 6 a.m. So I think my first 6 a.m. show was, it was a Singularity collab.
Okay.
This was, I think, in 22 or 23. Yeah. So they brought out Fernanda Martins and Cassie Raptor. So I opened that show.
Yeah.
And then last year I did, I did the Reform Party, the Reform Winter.
I think I was looking, you did several Reform events.
Did I? No. Oh, so the one this year when they brought out Ville, I think that was was that a Reform?
I believe so.
Must have been.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And then you've, done events with like Shlomo as well, I saw.
Yes, Shlomo and Erod.
So how was that feeling getting to like, a couple years ago, you were barely learning how to
Right.
DJ. Now you're like, a part of a lineup with some big names, honestly, and big collectives. Did you expect it to reach this point this quickly?
Not at all. No. Yeah. It's all felt so surreal, to be honest. Like, I still don't even believe it. I'm like, I'm going to wake up tomorrow and it's just going to be, regular old me and like case manager job. But it's exciting. Like, it's honestly mind blowing. Because, sometimes imposter syndrome kicks in and you're like,
it always happens.
do I really know what I'm doing? Like, I don't think I know how to DJ. What's wrong with me? You know what I mean? Like,
you're going to go through the same thing with producing. Everyone goes through it. It's just more or less, it's just, every artist goes through it, in my opinion, because like when you start off, you don't have your own taste. You don't have your own touch. So more or less, you use other people as reference. And I tell people every artist is like a collage of all the artists they admire. And that's what makes them unique.
Yeah, I love that.
So, I mean, you said, how is it actually being, do people know at your work what you do on the night?
No, actually, no. I think my super close friends do.
Yeah.
But I don't think the majority of people know. Maybe the people in my close friends list, because I'll post like, here and there on my close friends, like, oh, work was this today.
I have this whole Batman persona going on.
No, seriously, yeah. And I want to keep it that way, you know, because everything is really professional in medicine, you know what I mean?
That's fair, yeah.
Yeah, and it's not the same way, whereas like if I tell the people that know me as a DJ that I'm into medicine, they're like, oh my God, that's cool. But vice versa, they're going to be like, okay, is this person really qualified?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
there's always that stigma.
Exactly.
I think with everything, especially in nightlife.
Right.
There's a stigma.
Yeah, yeah. So I kind of like to keep them separate for the most part, you know?
That's better safe than sorry.
Yeah.
So, what about family though? Are they more or less aware? Or is that kind of like,
No. My mom, she shares all of my videos on her Facebook.
oh,
I
okay.
love it. Yeah. She's so proud. She just bought my little niece a little like small like piano with like DJ stuff on it. Yeah, it's so cute. Yeah. So they're like fully on board, which is super cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, so at least what is there anything big in 2025 that you kind of are aiming for or have lined up yet?
Yeah, so I there are a couple of gigs in 2025. My friend, I just played for him in June, I believe. I went up north to San Francisco to play at F8.
I'm sorry.
At F8.
Okay.
Fate. It's like one of their like main clubs for like techno. They brought out a lot of really big hypnotic techno artists.
How is San Francisco when it comes to the whole scene?
You know what? I love the San Francisco scene.
Really? Okay.
I love it because I feel like the San Francisco scene is what the LA scene used to be maybe like 6, 7 years ago. And I miss that because it was a lot more intimate.
When you say like what it was like 6, 7 years ago, like can you kind of paint a picture? Was it more smaller crowd?
Yeah.
Less?
It was more of a smaller crowd, people were there, not just necessarily to like, party, but they were actually there, which is fine. We all want to party, but they would show up for the music. Like they'd be like, I like that artist. I want to go see that artist.
Yeah.
Whereas now people just show up and they're like, oh, I don't even know who's playing.
Yeah, no, honestly, that is a very, I would say, universal comment I've been hearing, especially doing these interviews with a lot of more of the veterans who've been in the scene. They more or less, I think, with this whole wave of TikTok techno, people are just kind of coming in with the whole thing of just saying go into an underground. But I think it just comes with education.
Right. Yeah.
I came into techno with no clue.
Same. That's what I was about to say. We were all those kids at some point,
Yeah, I think the only difference now is just I think what's been falling short is that kind of that whole plur culture, like people looking after each other.
Yeah.
It seems very much everything is more cliquey now.
Yeah.
So.
But you know what? I feel like things have always kind of been that way.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, because even back then you would find your little cliques. It wasn't as pronounced.
Okay.
It was you kind of more had to know the people and know who was who to be like, oh, so-and-so only hangs out with so-and-so because, I don't know, whatever. It wasn't as like very in your face as it is now.
Actually, that's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't think about that because I was a late bloomer, so I didn't start until like 2017.
Okay. Still, that was quite some time ago. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, but I think one thing I also noticed, so you have the DJing, which more or less you have a pretty strong foothold compared to the producing. Producing's on the way. And for the producing, are you more or less self-teaching a lot, or are you finding avenues of mentorships?
Yeah, so a lot of it is, kind of me just going into Ableton and figuring out what the heck this thing does and what that does for the most part. I have a friend who's shared with me some of the courses that he's paid for.
Okay.
Like from Louis Fauci. I think it's Louis Fauci, I believe. So he like gave me his login and he's like, here, check these out. And he kind of breaks down like sort of the things that he uses, how he arranges things, Yeah, so that's been freaking awesome. I think I watched like one video of that was really informational. But before that, it was more me just, sitting down with my laptop and being like, how do I make this sound? And then Googling, going on YouTube, how to make blah, 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 blah. And then sifting through like 1,000 videos and it wasn't very productive. But
well, I think I've also seen at some points in your stories, you're hanging out with producers who have hardware too.
Yes.
Studios. How is that for you?
I'm not gonna lie, it's a little bit intimidating.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It is, because it's like, I don't know, to me, it's like I look up to these people, you know what I mean? It's like, wow, they just do it so effortlessly. Like, it's almost like watching a pianist sit down and start freaking, you know what I mean? Like, that's cool. And I can't say that I've gotten into the hardware as much.
Okay.
I'm just not, it's not really.
Yeah, because I asked because like I think when it comes to hypnotic, I've seen there's a plethora of DJs who use hardware to kind
Yeah.
of achieve that, ambient,
Yeah.
repetitive.
Yeah, but check this out. So some big artists that I played, like I think it was Vil, for example, or I don't remember the other one, but they've told us that they just produce on their laptop.
Okay.
They don't use anything else. And these are people that are like touring around the world,
Yeah.
consistently putting out albums. So it's more, I think, like really you can make it however you want to make it. You don't need all this expensive gear, although if you have it, like that's pretty freaking cool, and if you know how to use it, even better.
But was it fun getting to like interact? and
Yeah,
kind of
it's cool. I love watching them. I'm still very like shy. I get
It's funny
kind of,
because like I'm imagining you in a warehouse setting to come here and say you're shy. The difference. Yeah.
because it's a different thing. Like knowing what song to play with the next song, to me, I think that doesn't really take that much. It's just having good taste, I think.
Well, it's hard to come by these days, at least. So good taste, I think, to stand out and have good taste.
Yeah.
Is one thing.
Yeah, but then actually making, putting the
beats,
elements from scratch, like, wow, that's pretty cool. And it takes a lot of effort. Yeah.
This is just one thing. I just need to bring this a little bit more because because you're facing this way, so on the
Got it.
it's facing you. Yeah. So at least with the producing, can we expect something next year?
No. No, I mean, I would love to, but to be honest, I'm not in a rush.
That's fair.
You know what
That's
I
good,
mean?
yeah.
I have so many other things going on, besides work and like family stuff that like I don't feel that pressure to like have to put out something like.
Yeah.
And when I do, I want to feel comfortable and I want to feel happy. I want to feel like I actually dedicated some really hard work into it.
Yeah.
I don't want to just, like throw something together just because I want to, quote unquote tour or something,
fair.
Yeah.
But you're not shy of sharing it with like friends to get feedback.
No, I mean, I show my very close friends.
No, I think it's good. Honestly, that's because it is a level of vulnerability.
Right.
It is like you said, you wanted to create something that's you.
Yeah.
So it is sharing a part of you. But
Right.
now is this weird gray zone of like it doesn't sound exactly how you have envisioned.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
how much time are you spending at least? Because producing and DJing, they require so much time.
Yeah. So honestly, not as much as I should be, to be honest. It's very sparingly right now at this time, because I play a lot of gigs.
Yeah.
I think this month and July have been my only 2 slow months this year.
Oh, wow.
Before that has been like gig every weekend or, just last minute gigs. And it takes time. Like it takes time to prep the set, to practice.
How like a busy month, how many events are we talking about here?
So anywhere between 4 and 7 events. And like I'll do like a Friday, Saturday, or I'll do like a Thursday, Saturday, or a Thursday, Friday, or, like back to back weeks.
Oh, wow. And then like you said, how long are you spending prepping usually?
So I searching for the tracks because I try not to play the same set twice, although sometimes I can't avoid that. So searching for the tracks and then putting the tracks together and then arranging the tracks and then running through the tracks and then being like, wow, none of those worked. And then reworking my set. So I put a lot of, not that much time into it, but it does take time.
Definitely.
And,
how to explain this? How do you structure it? Like, is there like, if I'm doing opener, I'm going to be more reserved, a little bit less, or
Yeah. So I, as far as like how I pick the tracks, definitely based on whatever, the time slot is. Like if it's an opening, so also depending on who I'm opening for, I like to listen to a lot of their mixes.
Okay.
And kind of hear their sound because I don't want to play something that's like
way out
completely
there.
out of the park from what the vibe of the night's gonna be. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Yeah, so just familiarizing myself with the things that they like to play, and then kind of thinking or being like, okay, well, what's something similar but like a step below that?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. To kind of like, okay.
Yeah.
And then, but you're doing that for every set.
Not every set.
But
Yeah,
yeah.
but most of my sets.
So
Yeah.
your catalog getting pretty big of
Yeah,
tracks.
yeah, I love it. But you know what? It never feels like I have enough tracks, which is crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, just because each event is almost unique on its own.
Exactly. Yeah. And you do recycle some tracks here and there, your favorites.
You always got to throw out some
Yeah, yeah,
favorites
yeah,
for
yeah,
yourself.
yeah.
Yeah, you're playing for the crowd, but sometimes you want to play something for
But it's
yourself.
for you, right?
Oh man, but I mean, so in that short amount of time, you've seen like, hey, the events are getting bigger.
Yeah.
The crowds are getting bigger. Do you feel like at some point you're going to be the headliner? And then how does that make you feel? Do you feel ready for that?
I do feel ready for it. I don't know if it's gonna be anytime soon. But I don't want to I don't want to feel like it should be happening now, because then I
Yeah.
feel like I'm letting myself down.
Yeah, you kind of have this like no expectations.
Yeah. Like I'm very happy where I'm at now. I'm more than grateful.
Yeah, I think honestly that will take you really far, because I've interacted with people who they do love the music and stuff, but they kind of have that expectations of wanting the fantasy,
Yeah.
but they always get met with disappointment when the reality hits.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And if you don't have that expectation, every gig is like,
Yeah.
oh shoot, what? Me?
Yeah, everything is a disappointment rather than a gain and experience.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, I mean, obviously there's the producing, there's the DJing. I think one thing not a lot of people talk to is social media presence. Yeah, and
Favorite.
yeah, I assume so.
Sorry.
Yeah, I got, because I'm the same way. But yeah, so like at this day and age, in my video I even said like competition in LA is very fierce.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people trying to get into this, trying to stick out. Was something, at least from my experience, I think I met you a year ago. You've been really active on the social media.
Yeah.
Has that something that since day one, since you got into? Do you have a team, or is it all you?
No, it's all me. So I actually used to be more active on my social media, because my bookings weren't as close together. So I had more time to kind of like promote myself and things like that. Or not even just promote myself, but just sort of like engage your followers,
Yeah, interact with that.
Yeah. But now I don't even post that much online. I was actually thinking about that today. Like, wow, like I feel like I haven't promoted the gig that I'm playing next week as much as I would love to, but it's tough lately, with like work, and I have more responsibility at work now. So it's like my work sometimes comes home with me.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So it's not, and it's exhausting. I'm not gonna lie.
Sometimes you're mentally drained.
My God. Yeah, I'm on the phone with people all day at work, interacting with people. My work takes so much of my brain power that when I get home, it's like, I just want to sit down and watch TV. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
you
there's
need
some
mental health
nights.
breaks. It's essential. Honestly.
Yeah. So I think lately I'm finding it a little bit more difficult to be more engaged. And I've definitely seen the effects of that, because, you see it, like your posts start getting less likes and, and things like that. But honestly, like at the end of the day, like I think anyway, social media is going to be a phase that is going to pass like everything else. And all we're going to have left is the music, which is what truly should be.
Yeah, that's where the diehard fans come out.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's like, it's going to be all right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So more or less, actually, I did want to ask about one. On your Instagram page, you did a photo shoot, the black and white one that's painted on. Really great photography, honestly.
Thank you.
When I saw that, I was like, all right, this is professionally done. And I wanted to ask about that, and like, can you give me a little bit of a backstory on that shoot?
Yeah. So, let me try to remember. So he had, the photographer that shot me, he had shot me for a different gig that I had been booked for.
Okay.
It was, I'm trying to remember the name of the promoter, and I'm so sorry that I don't remember. But they had booked me for a gig, and he was doing his friend a favor and sort of shooting the artist, kind of getting a little bit of content so she could promote the party and
Yeah.
get, more of a following,
Yeah.
getting people excited. You know how it goes,
Yeah.
like things like that. And so he did some pictures for me. I don't know if you've seen them. It's one of my first professional pictures
The
that were
one
in the
black and white
green.
ones?
No. Before that, in the green. No.
I don't think I saw those
Oh
ones.
man, I posted it years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe like 2 years ago. So he did those pictures for me. And then when I started getting booked for like the bigger gigs, like the bigger things, like the 6 a.m. and stuff, I was like, okay, well, I need something that looks a little bit more professional so that I could send to these people, because I'm not gonna send them like a bathroom selfie or whatever. Like that's just not okay.
Fair. Yeah.
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 So I loved his work, and it was easy to shoot with him. I didn't feel, I did feel awkward, but he's really good at guiding you.
Yeah.
And he would tell me like, okay, why don't you look here, because he shoots for magazines.
Yeah, I looked at his Instagram and it's like, this guy
Yeah.
definitely has a certain aesthetic, a certain style.
Yeah. So I kind of explained to him like my vision, and immediately he was like, I got you. I got it. Yeah. And he's like, I don't normally shoot in black and white. He's like, but I'll do it for you. And I'm like, okay. And they came out excellent.
Yeah, no, yeah. There's definitely like a great showpiece, or like a way to really make a statement on your page.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then one thing that I actually liked when we were like getting set up for this is you have a whole, what do you call it? You sent me the page, content.
Oh, my EPK?
Was it called?
No.
It's a website where you had all your content posted.
Oh, yeah. My EPK, electronic press kit.
Yeah, electronic press kit.
Yeah.
So you're the first one to provide that. So is that something you normally give to promoters?
Yeah, so to the bigger promoters anyway, because they're the ones that kind of ask for it. I've tried to make it a habit now for when people ask me, because they don't ask you for an EPK, they ask you for media.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then, why not just send the whole shebang?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All this stuff, like, was it just being part of the scene that you had friends teach you all this?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. So actually, my friend Orly, do you know Orly?
I don't think so.
Okay, so Orly was the one who told me about it. Because, I know that artists have writers and stuff after they get booked. But I always wonder, like, what is it that they send to people? Like, besides the track, like, is there anything else? Like a resume, sort of.
Exactly. Yeah. Portfolio. But,
Right. So she asked me one time, she was like, oh, do you have your EPK? And I was like, my what? She's like, yeah, your EPK. Like, if you want to, start getting booked, like, out of state and overseas, these are things that are going to be asked of you, sort of like you showcasing yourself. Like, okay, like, what have you done? They want to hear your sound. What is your sound? Like, do you have media? Like, where's your bio? And I had everything sort of scattered. And I told her, I said, oh, well, I have my media drive here. And, I have these videos saved. And she was like, no, you have to make it
presentable.
Short and sweet, presentable, know? What's Gigi like on paper?
Oh.
Yeah.
That's something actually I don't think I've ever heard anyone talk about this.
Yeah. So it honestly, I'm still working on it. It's not completed. Like, it's still a work in progress, because you're supposed to update it with like your more recent gig, updated media.
Yeah.
But it took me some time. Yeah.
And it's still a work in progress.
It's still a work in progress. Yeah.
Like, what do you feel like is short of it? I looked through it. It looked great. So I'm
Yeah,
not sure
thank you.
Yeah, I'm not sure what more you need to add to it without it being.
I think maybe just adding, because a lot of the media on there, not the link to the media, but the media itself that you can see when you open the page.
Oh, I see.
It's from like when I was playing more of the harder stuff.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so I have to kind of update it with like the newer sound that I'm going for. But yeah, it was Mackenzie Nectar. She was the one who told me. Yeah, she was like, why don't you just use Google Sites?
Oh, that's that easy.
Because that's what she uses. Yeah, no, literally. So she was like, yeah, here. So she sent me the link to her EPK. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. So you have to teach yourself how to use Google Sites, but it's not like,
it's not rocket science.
it's like, it's not crazy.
Yeah.
So it's actually pretty user friendly. So you kind of just put links to everything, and the website does the rest.
Oh.
Yeah.
And damn, so it sounds like you're very like self-sustaining when it comes to like, so you're not afraid just to get yourself in there and then figure it out.
Yeah, that's kind of what I have to do for work anyway. So
that's fair.
Yeah.
Huh. So do you think next year you'll be actually like doing shows outside of LA? Are you going to kind of put more agency towards that?
Yeah. So I think next year, because my residency with Sextasy is sort of like already towards the end. It's been a year. They've already released their residents for next year. So
Oh, so residency is only like
a
a
year.
term, a 1 year term. Oh,
Yeah,
I
like
see.
I'm sure they're still gonna continue to book me.
Yeah, yeah,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? But as far as like, I think having it be something continuous, like how it's been throughout this year, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Just because they have to give the spotlight to the new people they've selected
Yeah.
and things like that.
Residency guarantees you a show, what, like every month?
Yeah, at least once a month.
Okay.
Yeah, at least once a month. It's been more than that for me. It's been 2-3 times a month sometimes with them. Yeah. Which has been really nice.
Okay.
Because that's where I've gotten a lot of like my exposure and my just practice being in front of a crowd and thinking on your feet and stuff like that.
Because it sounds like you do a lot of pre-planning, but at the same time, I feel like let's fuck around and throw it in.
Yeah. So like recent, so my set on Sunday, because it was so last minute, I try not to. I used to freestyle my sets. And then I realized that doesn't work for me like it does for other people,
Yeah.
But now what I do is like on Sunday, what I did is I took little parts from different sets.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like I picked maybe like 3-4 tracks from one set that I knew that I really liked, like this part of the set. This was my favorite part of the set. So I'm going to pick these tracks and I remember this part from this other set kind of goes with this part. So that's, what I did. But for the most part, it's pre-planning, yeah.
And then where can we find your sets? Is it all on SoundCloud?
So I do have some on SoundCloud. To be honest, I hate recording.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Why is it just setting up and everything?
Just the nerves, just knowing that I'm being recorded, like it doesn't feel natural to me.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah, so I definitely want to work on putting out more mixes this coming year,
So normally collectives don't record for you. It's on you to kind of do it.
Yeah, to kind of, and I do have a Tascam, I do have a recorder, but there's been times where I bring it and, from like the excitement and the anxiousness, I forget to turn it on, or I think I turned it on, but I didn't. So I'm just like, whatever, dude, like I'm just going to play.
Do you find yourself still getting nervous leading up to gigs?
Yeah, all the time. Are you kidding? Yeah, even on Sunday.
That hasn't gone away.
No, but I don't think it ever will. Yeah. It's just, just like the nerves. Like, okay.
It's that build up. But I think once you're in it though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. After that first track, I'm like, oh, I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just the build up to it.
Right. Yeah.
I like to ask, has there been any times we just made mistakes?
Oh my God, all the time.
Just
Are
like
you
the
kidding me?
world ending.
Yes, I still do, because
Yeah.
I'm still like, whatever, no set's gonna be perfect.
No, yeah.
It doesn't matter how many times you practice. Like there's been times where everything is going great and I'm wearing a long sleeve and the long sleeve pulls the jog wheel.
No.
Oh no, I swear it happened to me on
Really?
Sunday again.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's like some things you just can't prepare for.
Yeah,
You know
that's
what I mean?
life.
No
Yeah.
matter how many times you run through those tracks, something's gonna happen. Your headphones are not gonna work.
Oh, you've had that happen?
Happened to me as well
What about USBs ejecting?
on Sunday.
Really?
So somehow I accidentally wiped my two main USBs.
No.
Yeah. So when I plugged them in on Sunday, I was like, shoot. Well, I'm gonna have to play the same set I played 2 weeks ago. Don't have another choice. And then I dug through my bag and I found my third one. I was like, oh, thank God.
Lucky.
Yeah. So definitely come prepared.
Yeah. Actually, let's talk about a little bit about that. Being prepared, like for the people who want to get into this,
Yeah.
what would you say, like maybe if top 3 things you would give advice for to people who want to start getting involved in the underground scene?
Yeah. So I think, well, as far as like becoming familiar with like promoters and like getting booked. So I think my advice mostly is kind of showing your face. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Aside from having a sound,
Yeah.
and having something that kind of differentiates you from the 1,000 other people that are also trying to get their foot in the door. I think a lot of it, in my experience, came from just coming around, supporting, meeting other people who are interested in the same thing and just having like a genuine connection with people.
Yeah.
Because that ultimately is what's really gonna, get you further. Like how I said, like a lot of my gigs when I first started was because I had already built these good relationships with these people. And so when they saw that I started doing it, they were like, oh, wow, it's time,
Yeah, yeah. So it
but
very organically came to you.
yeah, exactly. And that's always nice, coming from a promoter standpoint, because I did used to throw my own parties. It's annoying to
And you
have,
threw your own parties?
yeah, under fixation.
Actually, yeah, that's one thing I did want to talk about. Yeah, fixation. That is your collective.
Yes.
Okay, I mean, we're almost done. I think it would be a great way to kind of end it. Let's talk about fixation.
Sure.
What was the inspiration behind it?
Yeah, so I started fixation. I think it was in 2021, right around the same time I started DJing.
You were doing a lot for 2021.
Yeah, you know what? It was a big year for me.
Yeah.
It was a year of a lot of turmoil and transition.
Okay.
Personal life things and stuff.
Yeah.
And so I needed something that sort of gave my life meaning in a sense. It's okay, well, what am I doing right now that really makes me happy, that pulls me out of this like dark mental place that I'm in right now? And that was it for me. It was start learning how to DJ. And I've always wanted to throw my own parties because I wanted to see what it was like. So that's what I did.
What was the inspiration behind the name? Because you actually have it spelled in an interesting way.
Yeah. So I wanted to think of something that sort of said techno without saying techno, obviously. You know what I mean? Like, and I was talking with my friend at the time, and I was like thinking, like, okay, like what does techno do for me? Like, you know what a fixation is?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So I was like, okay, like techno, like it fixates me, like it hypnotizes me, like it entrances me. Yeah. I'm like, what's a good way to say that? And I was thinking fixate. I don't know. I was,
It slowly developed.
little by little, I finally thought of fixation, and I thought about Shakira's oral fixation. Because Shakira's Colombian too. Yeah, and I was like, why don't I just make a fixation without the oral part?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the writing is just just to make it unique.
It looked great. Yeah. Is it still? Are you still actively working towards that?
No, not at this time, because it takes a lot of planning and a lot of energy to host a party, and I just have a lot of money.
Yeah.
And with paying for pirate studios, paying for music, paying for pictures for promo, like that's all coming out of my pocket.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard, for me financially to do
a
both.
team,
Yeah.
for sure too. But at least you have a few events under your belt.
Yes. Yeah. I think we threw maybe like 5-6 events.
Okay.
Yeah, in the span of like 2 years.
Huh. And were they mostly here in LA or?
Yeah, here in LA.
Like warehouses and stuff.
I think the last one was last year.
Okay, so it's pretty.
Pretty recent. And I have plans, I have ideas for fixation in the future, when time allows, and, when I'm financially a little bit more ready for that.
I'm the same boat, don't worry. Yeah.
I actually would love to have a label under the name
That'd be
fixation.
amazing,
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool, right? Yeah. So, just little by little, I think, there's just got to be time.
So you would say this year and leading into next year, you're really starting to like hone down and focus and putting your energy towards one thing.
Towards my sound.
Towards your sound.
My sound. Yeah. Just my sound, sort of moving away from the stuff that I was playing before and honing in more on the broken beat hypnotic stuff. I do want to put out more mixes. I'm going to have another photo shoot sort of too.
Oh, that's exciting. Same artist?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, just to kind of
almost rebrand.
Yeah, exactly. So that's more of my focus for 2025 is just rebranding, and doing things that are gonna, sort of propel Gigi in that
world. Are you gonna try maybe working with different collectives, different names to help with that?
Yeah, so that's another thing. I definitely want to slow down a lot on the gigging. I think in 2025, what I want to focus on more is focus on gigs that are gonna sort of, go under my belt as like, for example, like when I play like with a big headliner, like Erod or like, you know what I mean? Because I do take a lot of like local gigs as well.
Yeah.
One, because I love what I do. You know what I mean? Why not? And two, because I wanted that experience. But I think now that I've reached this level of comfort with my sets and with playing, I think now I can kind of take a step back and focus more on the musical aspect of it.
Okay. Yeah, you're taking more of a mindful step, being more strategic. Yeah, so that every set you do is you're getting the maximum amount of return.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's exciting. And when do you plan to do the photo shoot?
Sometime in January, I believe, because he's a busy person.
I
It's
bet,
like,
yeah.
especially with the holidays. Holidays
yeah.
are usually pretty bad for him. So it's gonna have to be after the new year.
Have you guys already kind of figured out a vision for it?
Yeah, I've talked to him about it a little bit. I have the idea in my head, but I need to check with him to see if that's something that he can make happen,
Okay,
Because he's more
okay.
of like a studio,
Oh, and do you want it more
and I
like,
want him more outdoors
like in the
kind of thing.
environment that
Yeah,
you're in?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah. So
okay.
so we'll see. We'll see if we can make
Yeah.
that work. Yeah.
Oh, I'm
Should be
excited to
fun though.
see. Yeah, this is gonna be excited. And yeah, we're pretty much at the end, but thank you honestly for coming out. It was great getting to know you. Is there anything else, any last comments you want to leave before we end?
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. To everybody, that's gonna watch and listen to this, thank you guys. Thank you guys for the support. Thank you guys for continuously, coming to my gigs or supporting me one way through another, whether it be social media or even just listening to some of the mixes that I have up on SoundCloud. Like, it's greatly appreciated. I didn't really expect to be where I am now. But it wouldn't have been with the help of friends and with all the support that, even strangers have shown me.
Yeah.
So,
Well, let's see what happens in a year then.
yeah.
Great.
And
you.
thank you.
Definitely. All right. And